Aloha everyone, and welcome to the Women of UHE Podcast. Today I am by myself, and I hope you're doing well, and thank you for joining me. I'm usually with other people, but today I decided to do a solo podcast, kind of for a few reasons, but I'll get into that later. It's not too important. I think the reason I wanted to do this podcast today was I have a tendency to speak too much, and I'm still learning how to be a good host, and that's something that is probably going to take me a while. But a lot of what I've noticed is that I tend to speak about my stories or my experiences, which can be good to connect with someone, but I really want to learn about them and what they do and why they're interested in whatever they're talking about, or how they grew up doing certain things, or whatever we're talking about. I kind of want the focus to be more about them. But in my previous podcast episodes, it felt a little too much about me. And so the way I'm gonna solve that is if I just do an entire podcast by myself. Yay! So I hope you're doing well. It's actually Veterans Day today. Right now, at this very moment, the UHE football game versus, I think, the US Air Force is happening right now. So there's a lot of people on campus, and I heard the jets freaking fly over the iLab, which is terrifying. I'm sure it looked cool outside, but when you're inside, it does not look cool. So today I wanted to talk about kind of a few different things, but centering around why I made Women of UHE. And there's kind of a clear answer, I hope. I hope you get something out of it. I hope you enjoy listening. If you have any criticisms for my setup, please do, because I want to start with the fact that I'm not a content creator. I'm a creative person. I've done art my whole life. I've been a dancer my whole life. I'm interested in a lot of artistic things, and I love creative minds. It fuels my soul. But when it comes to doing things like podcasting or video editing or literally just taking photos, I'm really amateur. So it's pretty noticeable that I am the one editing these podcasts and stuff like that, because you can see the dramatic learning curve that I experienced from day one to podcast episode 3. There's already been so much improvement, which I'm very grateful for, but it's one of those things that I am not a content creator. I just have never been, and I've tried to be. I did make YouTube videos when I was 12, and they were incredibly embarrassing and not watchable, and I did delete them a few years after I had made them, which I'm not complaining about. But it's just one of those things that I just was doing it for the wrong reasons, and so now I'm in this position where I think I'm doing content for the right reasons. Instead of being oh, I want to be a famous YouTuber, or I want to make a lot of money or stuff like that, I'm driven by, I want to spread this message. I want to promote my program. I want to support the people around me. And that kind of makes me feel invincible, because I just will do things that I don't want to do. Right now, I am filming alone, and I actually have a lot of social anxiety, so talking to people is, even though I do talk a lot, and I recognize that, I'm quite an introvert, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable. But I have this other thing where I will force myself to talk, because I want to make myself suffer. I'm not sure. But I'm kind of grateful for it, because it puts me in situations that I don't think I would normally be in if I didn't have that. And it forces me to do things like do a podcast by myself, which makes me way more anxious than with other people, because I think with other people you can force yourself to get over it, or I'm always oh, I have to do this for other people. So I have to push through. Whereas by myself, I'm very lenient on myself. I'm like, oh, I can give myself a break. I don't need to do this right now. And so it has taken me a bit to film this because I had to like build up that courage. But I think it's useful. I am leading a program for people that are marginalized, and that's not an easy thing to do because I'm constantly questioning if I'm in the right, or if I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, or if I'm doing the wrong things, or how am I meant to go about this, because no one really has done this before. There are a lot of incredible people that I work alongside with, and a lot of friends at other universities that run their own marginalized gender programs, but it's just not something that exists very strongly in our world right now. And that's okay. But it just means that I have a very steep learning curve, and in the end, I'm a behind the scenes person. I don't like being in front of the camera. I love attention. Like, I'm sure it's everyone's guilty pleasure is getting attention, but I feel wrong being here. And so I hope that I'm always going to have these insecurities, and I hope I can kind of push through that today. I kind of want to just piece things together and go from the start. My microphone and computer setup is also a little sketchy, but that's okay. I think it works. And if it works, it's good enough. So, let's get into it. My name is Madeline. I grew up in the UK for 13 years. I moved to the US when I was 13. And I basically I had 8th grade in Washington and high school in Washington, and then I flew to Hawaii to go to university, and now I'm a junior. So I'm a slight international girly. I grew up in a different place, and what I like to say is that even though both England and the US, or Britain and the UK and the US speak the same languages, it's really weird because even though, yes, we can communicate, everything is slightly off. And it's like everything has an accent on it. Not just the way we speak, but in every single thing that happens in daily life is like slightly different. It has a slight like, that's not right. And it just throws you off because when I moved, I was suddenly like, oh, going to the doctor works differently, going to shops is different, and making friends is different, the education is different. Like, even though it felt so similar, it was just all slightly off. Everything is just slightly different, and I'm very grateful for my experience of being able to live in 2 different countries and coming from a family that took care of me, and I had a very good life. And I still have a good life, but my upbringing was just very good. It's like to the book. My parents pretty much did everything right, and I was fortunate to be in a family that had enough money to support us and lived on this beautiful farm. I lived on a farm on a hill in like this tiny ass village, and it was great because what child wouldn't love that, like frolicking in the fields? Anyway, I digress. But I have these different experiences, and moving to Hawaii was also definitely a shock. I knew what to expect, but knowing what to expect and actually like moving to Hawaii and being here and learning about this place and everything is completely different because this is a different place. And I feel like I'm very grateful for these experiences that I've had because it's helped me become more open-minded and more kind of just I guess accepting of other people. Not that I wasn't before, but it's really easy to stay in your bubble. And when you're pushed out of your comfort zones, if it's moving to a country, if it's starting a new hobby or going to university, it is so valuable because you get to question what you grew up believing. And so I really valued that because I think it opened my eyes to sorry, there's a gecko yelling in here. But it opened my eyes to how different people can be. And like, that sounds really stupid, but it is important because I'm running a program that is supporting different people, and it's supporting people that don't really get treated the same way, especially in our in the esports world, then they should. And so I have to be aware of what is wrong, or I have to be aware of those things, that I'm not the only person in the world, that I have to be constantly questioning myself and asking myself, am I making the right choice? And it is pro and con. It's hard, and to be honest, part of me gets like imposter syndrome because I'm not sure if I'm meant to be in this role, especially as, yes, I am a woman and that is like part of our program, but I'm also white, and race is something that I feel comfortable enough talking about, especially in Hawaii, as it's majority like not white people, and I grew up in like the whitest towns on this planet. But I have to bring it up because I'm representing people that are most of the time not white. Everyone in our program are from different places and are different races, and it's hard when I am like, yes, I am a woman and that counts for something, but I'm also like a pretty privileged person and I grew up in this very good family, and I already had the privilege of being white, and I already came into this place like with that. I want other people especially to be more critical and harder on me so I can hold myself accountable for that. I'm leading a program of different people, and I need to remember that. I am very grateful for my upbringing, and so there's pros and cons. There is the fact that I feel more aware of the world. I feel like I understand other cultures, and that I have experiences in different situations that help me feel like my eyes are more open to things, but I also can't stay comfortable in that and think of that thought as like a safety net, because it's not true. I'm gonna mess up, and I'm in a place that I will subconsciously not realize that I'm messing up. And so I think that part of my history is important because people don't know me very well. And when I'm starting to get into bigger things, when I'm starting to expand this program, I want people to know me, and I want you to be comfortable telling me if I'm doing something wrong. And that's something that I really value because I want to hold myself accountable, and I do hold myself to higher standards than I think people would expect because of my position. I'm not just the leader of a Women of UHE program, but I'm also the player support coordinator at UHE. And that kind of gives me a lot of these roles where I'm taking care of people, essentially. And I'm making sure that they're okay and that they're successful, that they're doing well. And that kind of entails a lot of things, but especially being a leader and having really strong morals and really strong values and having an open mind, I think is really important. But sometimes we can't always do that alone. And so I don't know if that's a really long tangent for the very beginning of this. I had a few topics I wanted to cover today. One of them was really like how I got here, how I got to this position. and then also why I'm doing this. So I grew up in the UK for 13 years. I have an older brother. My brother is very into games. He's quite a nerd, I will say so myself. And he's the reason why I'm into games. And I kind of like solely put that on him, because he's the one that had a Game Boy and a Nintendo and the freaking Wii console. Like, all of these things were his or a family thing. But he's the one that like played the most, and he's 5 years older than me, so I look up to him. And I see him doing all this stuff, and I want to do it, and we would play games together a lot, and all that stuff. So that's why I'm into gaming, and I credit him for my interest in it. And also, I think I just genuinely enjoy games, and a lot of people do. Games can cater to everyone, and that's something that I really love about esports and about gaming, is that there is a game for everyone. For your grandma to your baby, there is something that they can play, that they can feel stimulated by, that they can learn from. And I find that really cool, to be honest, if I do say so myself. But I played all these games as a kid, and it wasn't really until I started like hitting 10, 11-ish that I got into Minecraft. Minecraft kind of blew up around when I was like 9, I think. And that's when all of the Minecraft YouTubers are super popular, and like my friends are playing, and me and my brother would play a lot, and it was just popping off. And I love that, and I like that it's still popular now. And the fact that we have a Minecraft server in our Women of UHE Discord, and people still want to play in it, and I think that's awesome. And honestly, I would too if I had time, because right now I'm a little stacked. But it is such a good game, like hands down, and it brings so much childhood like nostalgia for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people. Like, I have a very distinct memory of my brother playing it on his laptop, and his laptop sounding like it's gonna freaking take off into the sky because of how loud the fans are. But he still played it on there, and thinking about it now, I'm like, that poor computer was probably dying. But it was a fun game, and I had this group of friends that we would play Minecraft together like all the time, and we had like servers, and we would start Minecraft worlds and just did all the Minecraft things. And that was the first time I experienced like, oh, this is like these are my not gamer friends, that sounds so lame, but these are like the guys that I play games with, and there's a different sense of like friendship and kind of just like fun that you have when you play games with friends. And that was the first time I experienced it, because I was like, I don't think I've ever laughed that much like playing video games with friends, or had like so much fun, or made like so many memories. And this is all online on Skype back in the day. And like, I think that's also Team Chat era before Discord. But it was the first time I experienced that sense of like enjoyment of playing with others, and it is addicting because it's so just fulfilling. And when you're with the right people, you're really with the right people. And I have experiences later where like I play games with groups of friends that I don't associate with anymore, or I really am just like, Madeline, that was a questionable period of time. They weren't great people, or their morals just didn't align with mine, which is okay. It was just kind of like a spot in time that I don't look over very fondly. But it's interesting to me how strong like I have emotional connections to these moments in time, and it's why I'm so passionate about gaming, because it did create such strong friendships with people for me, and with people that I've never met before, which my poor mom, I don't know if she knows about this, but the amount of people that, like, strangers that were definitely above 18 when I was like 10 that I talked to, and it was super just like friendly environments and having fun and talking to random people that you know you're never gonna see in person, but you get to know them, and I think that's really cool, to be honest. I played a lot of Minecraft, and then I played some other games. I don't really remember too much from before we moved, but when I turned 13 and we decided to move to the US, we got rid of our computer, and it was our family's computer that I probably spent the most time on because I was playing games on it. But because we got rid of it because we were moving, I suddenly didn't have a platform to really play anything on, and that kind of ended I just have this gap in time where I didn't play anything. And it wasn't until my brother came back from college, because he went to university in the US when we moved to the US, so it was pretty convenient. He went somewhere in Wisconsin, hated it after like a year or something, moved to where we were living and moved back in with us basically. And he had an Xbox, so this is like probably 2 or 3 years later, and I started playing Minecraft again. I remember my brother got a Nintendo Switch, and he had the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was extremely popular. I'm off the top of my head, I think it came out in 2019. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. And it was just like, I fucking loved that game. It was so good. And I just finished playing Tears of the Kingdom like a few months ago, so I'm like massive Zelda fan. I think if you know me, you know my Discord profile is like all Zelda. But I started playing Breath of the Wild, and that was like the first game besides Minecraft that I really got back into, and it's such a fantastic game. If you haven't played it, I like highly suggest it. Also, any of the Zelda games, I know people will have more preferences towards different ones, but I know Twilight Princess is super popular. I just highly suggest it. It is such a fantastic story, and there is so much in like lore behind it that people have done like so much digging on, because Zelda's been around for a very long time considering most games existence length. So it's just one of those old games that has constantly just reinvented itself, and is just absolute favorite of mine. But along this time, I also believe Among Us came out, I think in like 2018, 2019. I think I was a junior in high school, I was a junior and senior in high school. Among Us came out. I'm not gonna credit it to why I started playing competitive games, but it might have been like one of the catalysts, because one of my closest friends was playing Among Us with this group of guys that like were a pretty close like gamer guy friend group, whatever. They all played Among Us, and I got invited, and I played along with them, and it brought back like the memories of playing Minecraft with my other friends, like when I was younger. And it was definitely a damn, I miss this kind of moment. So I got super excited to play again, because I was just suddenly like, wow, I forgot like this was a thing that you could play games and online with friends, and it was something that I had just missed for like 4 years, and it's a really weird gap in time. But when you don't do something like that for 4 years, you forget what it feels like. So I found myself playing more games with this like particular group of people, and they were also a major Rocket League group, and so I got into Rocket League. Actually, before this, my mom had this like extremely old MacBook that I mentioned in one of the other podcast episodes, but it's like the like 4 inches thick kind of MacBook, or not MacBook, the Macintosh, the computer. And so I used that to play Minecraft on, which is insane. And I also, and this is like pandemic time, And this is also like, I tried adding mods to it, which does not work. That computer does not like that. So I remember doing that and failing. But I did play Minecraft on it. And then kind of I had enough. So because I was going to university in a year and I needed a laptop, I was like, I'll get a gaming laptop, which I know a lot of people have opinions about, but I went along with it. And I found the HP Omen 15, which is hands down my favorite gaming laptop, just because it has a nice design and it is pretty like efficient, and it has good performance quality, and I don't know. I think it's a good little guy, and I still have it. But I started playing Valorant because suddenly I had a PC that could actually run games. Crazy. And I was like, yay. So I started playing Valorant, which is very, like, I don't know if that was the best decision or not, but I 100% got hooked. And I was able to play Rocket League on it as well, which I also played a lot, like, back then. So I suddenly start playing these more, like, competitive games, which is something that I haven't really done before this time period. So I was kind of late to the game, because most people that did go onto Valorant or did play, like, other competitive games played COD or CS before this, or played, like, I don't know, other first-person shooters that kind of aligned with Valorant and all that stuff, and I hadn't. So it was my first-person shooter, and it was kind of my first time really playing competitive games. And I loved it, and especially during the pandemic, I think a lot of people experience this, but we were stuck inside and you don't really have that much to do. It's like, oh, I might as well game until, 5 a.m. Like, why not? And what's actually psycho is that when we started going back to school and we started having practices again, I was actually on the cheer team. I was a captain my senior year, and I was also a dancer at my local studio. So this was my schedule. My last year of high school, I would wake up around like 8 a.m. I'll go to school. I took community college and then also 2 classes in person. So at my high school. So I would go to school from like 9 a.m. till like 3 p.m., let's say. Then I'll go to cheer practice from like, I think it was like 4 to 6. And then I would go to dance, where I would take like ballet or contemporary or jazz, whatever, until like probably 9 p.m. And then I wouldn't get home until like 10 p.m. because we'll talk after class or whatever. It takes like 20 minutes for me to drive home. And I got home around 10 p.m. I eat, I shower, it's suddenly 11 p.m. And in my brain, I was like, I want to game. So then I game from like 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. And then I'd wake up at 8 a.m. And I did this for so long, like my senior year. I have no idea how, like, because I think most people will know me, most people that know me know that I go to sleep like 10:30 or 11, but I'm kind of a grandma. I won't stay up late, I won't go out, I just like being home and kind of sleeping at night. And I'll also wake up really early. So the fact that I did that at some period in my life is really weird to me, thinking of it. But I genuinely was playing Valorant like all the time. And so when I went to university and we're kind of just like trying to find somewhere to belong, like people that you can connect with, I found the University of UHEsports program actually before I joined. So I was in that server or in the Discord for quite a bit before interacting, and then because of mutual friends and getting to know people better, I just kind of like started to find myself in the community, which was great. And it was actually perfect timing, because I don't know if a lot of you know that much about UHE history, but before the pandemic, things looked quite different, and we didn't actually have this iLab, which is the space I'm filming in right now. And we got this space kind of because of the pandemic, because suddenly they were like, well, I guess you can take it, which we're very grateful for, and I think it's been put to fantastic use, especially by Allie, who's our arena coordinator, and also one of my board members. This space didn't really exist during the pandemic, and when I kind of started getting into the community more and started being in UHE like environment, it was right when this space was like really being created. And I can't tell you how important a physical space is for a community to connect and to make friends and to just hang out and build that kind of sense of camaraderie and likeness, that, oh, these are people that play the same games I do and feel like they belong. And having a physical space like this, even though we're such a virtual and online world, is so important. So I joined at like the perfect time, basically, and I was able to make friends quite quickly. There was a lot of Valorant players. I joined right at the time that our Valorant team was like really popping off, and they're also known as the Wave Riders. But because of that, I was like, oh, this team is so good, but I see no content for them. So I reached out to the team leads at the time, Rod and Kaysen, and I was like, please, can I do content, or can I manage content at least for you guys? And they were like, sure, crazy girl. And I did that. I suddenly kind of just, it was very random. But I started managing content. I'm very proud to have that I didn't produce, but I made happen during my time as like Valorant content manager. Was like, I'm pretty proud of it, because it may not have been the best like content, and it's sure not like the most professional content, but it was something that people enjoyed watching, that got our team out, and that I was proud of, because I was also able to bring in a lot of students that hadn't been able to get experience video editing, or like an opportunity to make more graphics or stuff like that. And so I was able to work with a lot of people individually to create projects literally just for the Valorant team to post on our socials, and I'm very grateful for that time, because it did teach me a lot, and it was kind of a stepping stone to management and leadership to be in the position that I am today. Because it was basically what I'm doing right now, just on a lower level. The way that I transition from content to leadership is quite strange, or it's not strange, it's just like not common. And it came down to a conversation that I had with the director of the program, and he was basically like, we have this spot open and you would be a good fit for it. And I was like, okay. So I can't really give any advice or say anything about how I got my job at UHE. And it was also unpaid for quite a while. And fortunately, we were able to get all of the leadership positions paid. And now we're kind of in the process of getting everyone else paid. And that is a whole debacle. But I'm very grateful to be one of the UHE members that do get paid. And after I feel like things shifted a lot, because even though I was doing the same job before I got hired on officially, and after, it was different, because I had a purpose now. I knew that people had been wanting to get paid positions for so long. I knew it was something that I couldn't take for granted, and I had to make the most out of this opportunity. I knew that I was in a very lucky position, and I still am, which I'm so honestly grateful for. But because of that, I wanted to work as much harder and as much more to make it worthwhile, to prove that I was worthy. And it was interesting, because this was before I created Women of UHE, but it was the first time that I experienced like really blatant sexism. And sexism in the program and sexism in esports and in our world in general is usually it's like deeply rooted in our beliefs and the things we say. So there's a tendency for people to say things that are quite out of pocket and aren't really appropriate, but because of our society, because of the way that we've been conditioned to accept that things are normal, they say it's okay, and we feel like we can't speak out about it. I experienced probably the most amount of sexism in the time that I got hired, and also the most amount of, like, I wouldn't say hate, but criticism, I guess, in a really not constructive way. This is a strong community, and I have a lot of friends in this community and people that I trust, and I think people that respect me quite well, and I respect them equally. And because of that, I'm unfortunate to be able to know about what is being said about me, and that's really hard because honestly, I'd rather not know about what people are saying about me. It's easier to swallow and it feels less bad. It's not nice to hear about people saying that you don't deserve where you're meant to be, that you're going to bring the program down, that you only got it because you're a woman, that you're like basically just a diversity hire, and say these pretty like crappy things about you because you just got a job or because you just got put on a position. And it was unfortunate coming especially from people that I expected to mentor me and to be there for me. And that's really just one of the negatives. And I can't sugarcoat it, and I can't say, oh, I had such a great time, like I'm running this program and I'm so happy, because there was a period of time where I felt awful because I felt like I didn't belong, because I was being told that I didn't belong. And I was so grateful to have Allie, who is also the only marginalized gender on our leadership team, alongside me, because I wasn't alone. And I also cannot not credit the incredible women that already were in leadership positions before I was in one, because I would not have been able to do it without them. Especially to shout out a few names, Alohi, who led the content team when I was doing Valorant content, was such an inspiration for me because she is one heck of a girl. And she is so incredible and already graduated and like away from our program now and just kind of exists as an alumni, but she really made me feel like I had some power and some authority and a reason to be there. She gets stuff done, and that was so awesome to see, because I don't think I would have felt as comfortable leading if I was entirely surrounded by men. And also Kelsey, who is the content, she did do content for a very long time and also led the content team for a period of time. She's also on my board, and I'm so grateful to have met her because she's also the sweetest person I know, and I love talking to her. And she's also someone that has been in a leadership kind of role and has motivated me and inspired me to say that I could do this. And that's how I really understood how important it is to have people in positions, not as diversity hired, but as people that do their job well, but others can look at them and say, hey, they look like me, I can do this. That gives me hope. That makes me feel like this is possible. And I didn't realize how important that kind of visualization is, to see someone in a position of leadership that you can relate to on like the most basic level of what they look like. And it feels kind of superficial sometimes, but in the end, it's so ingrained in our human nature to relate to people that look like us, that we can find a common interest with without even speaking to. No matter how hard, we'll try not to. It's just part of who we are. And so being able to be in this position that I am in is just awesome, but I cannot not like thank the people that were before me and that are still in my life now, because they're such an inspiration and made me feel like I could do it. this is all stuff that I felt extremely emotional about. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because it gave me this drive and this passion to create a space for people to feel like they could do that. They could do something, and that they felt safe, that they felt welcomed in, that they could bring up issues and not feel criticized or feel comfortable to speak out. And that is why I created Women of UHE, because I didn't feel like, I definitely didn't have that when I was going through all of this. And because I didn't have it, I wanted to make sure others did. Because what I experienced is something that I think I have a pretty hard shell, but it's something that I don't want others to experience because I don't think it's worth it. And this program shouldn't exist. And I say that all the time, but my end goal is always to make it so we don't need a program, for people to feel safe, to make sure things are equal. And I wish I could say it was and just lie, but it's not. And honestly, gaming is an industry that I've experienced and seen the most sexism very blatantly, and I don't know how it's gone on for this long, but me and many others are kind of over it, because there's only negatives with that. We don't need to be held back by what we think a leader should look like, by how we're supposed to act, by how we're treating people like poorly. There's no reason to not have kindness and respect for people, at the bare minimum. And I think the gaming industry, and especially the esports world, tend to forget that because there's a lot of disrespect and there's a lot of toxicity that exists, and that's not just saying gender issues, but also just between men. And there is so much toxicity and kind of like disgusting behavior that I hope that we can use this program to change, because I think it's so important to not feel like, to feel uncomfortable and to put yourself in a position where you can start to question these beliefs and to say to your friends or people that you know, I don't think that was okay to say, because that is really scary, and a lot of people don't feel comfortable enough to say that. Especially to people they know. But it's so important, because if you don't stop that kind of behavior, it's gonna keep going, and it is so just like soul eating. There's no good outcome from toxicity, from sexism, from any of it, and especially ignoring that it exists. Because even though, yes, women are able to vote, like bare minimum, and yes, we are able to do all these things, and yes, we are in leadership positions, but it's not enough, because we're not being treated equally still, and I can say that firsthand, and that's awful. Like, why can I give proof that that has happened to me and we haven't changed anything? And it has been thousands of years since, like, the creation of mankind, that why is this still a question that we're having? And I think it's rooted in a lot of different beliefs, and it's something that I will take the world, and maybe we'll never figure out, and that's okay. But I think it's important to start pushing back and to not give up, to not feel like your voice doesn't matter, because anyone's does. And that's especially why, even though we're called Women of UHE, I made sure to identify that this program is for marginalized genders, because women aren't the only marginalized gender. There are trans women and trans men and LGBTQA, like, there are so many people that benefit from this program to being supported and to knowing that they have a community behind their back. And I also just want to say how grateful I am for all the men that have really supported me, because only a few weeks ago, I think I did a podcast with Kevin and Sky, the UHE director and assistant director, who are my two main mentors in this program. And the amount of stuff that they've done for me and the way they've supported me I'm so grateful for. I also think I'm wearing the same shirt in that video that I am now, so we're gonna ignore that. I walk this line of yes, these things exist and it's really sucky, but there are a lot of positives, and I'm so grateful for such amazing people to listen to me and to uplift me, to also question me and say if they don't agree with something, because that's what I think is most important. Even though I am a woman, like I said before, I am white and I'm from a very well-off family, and I'm not the most diverse person on the planet. Crazy. But that's okay, and I should still be constantly aware of what other people are dealing with and especially struggling with. And I'm very grateful for the amount of allies that we have in the UHE program for Women of UHE, and I think that's been the absolute biggest help. This program wouldn't be able to be as effective if we didn't have non-marginalized genders supporting us, because they are so important in the scheme of things and so important to change and to supporting positivity and kindness and just general good environments. And I'm just very thankful for the people around me. I know I'm droning on, so but I think I wanted to bring that up because it's hard for me to talk about negative experiences, especially when I've had them on this campus and in this program, but I don't want to just kind of sink into them and cry myself to sleep at night and be frustrated for the rest of my life. I want to take that as a lesson of why I'm doing this, a reminder of why this is important. Anytime that I've had a doubt of, is this program really beneficial for people, I think of the messages that I've received over the past few months of people either thanking me or telling me stories that really make me cry. Because I do get emotional, and you're gonna have to deal with that because I don't care. But it makes me emotional to know that it's affected someone in a way that really has had a positive impact. And that's so much more meaningful than being the best Valorant player and it's so much more meaningful to me to get that kind of feedback than to get a paycheck. I would do this for free, and I am so grateful of that. I get paid because I am a college student and we're all struggling out here. But in the end, I would do it for free, and I will never stop doing this. I will never stop promoting equality and kindness and positivity and making sure people feel like they belong. Because I also don't want you to feel outcasted if you're not a marginalized gender. You do have a home here. I hope you'll always feel welcome. I hope you always feel like you have a home at UHE, because I'm not just the leader of a program for marginalized genders. I'm also part of leadership for an esports program at a university that has over 1,000 people in it, which is crazy. I think I want people to remember that I'm here for them, and that I will support you, and that I am that we are here for you, and we want you to be the best people that you can possibly be. So, why did I start Women of UHE? That's my answer. I hope you guys got something out of that, or if, if you stayed to the end, thank you. I'll always say, even if it's one person, that's probably Ethan watching this, or if it's like more than one, that's awesome. If it helps one person now or in the future, or if it helps a lot of people, that is why I do this, because it's not about how many views you get or how many people you get in or how much money you make, but it's really about affecting one person's life, because we're all here on this planet, we're all making it through, and you're doing a good job, and I'm proud of you guys. And I hope that you have a good day. That's all. This is the last time I'm ever doing this. I'll never be alone again, but slay.